Boom, hey internets. Really good conversation here. This kind of hit me as such a big point that I don't think I've brought up specifically for the channel. And so, as you guys know, a lot of the points that I bring out in the channel are what you shouldn't do, all right? Although I have a lot of case studies of brands that I think are successful, right? And I'll bring out case studies of those case studies, right? Like moves that they make that are genius moves. There's way more examples of what not to do, and there's a bigger graveyard of brands that will never make it, didn't make it, or were popping for, you know, a small amount of time and might have made a mistake. And so as I continue to consult with a lot of brands, more and more I'm getting people who are making a good amount of success but are ready to kind of jump to that next level, right? And so very specifically, I'm going to talk about cut and sew mass production, right? So I talk about Supercolor and using Heat Press Nation to use the tools there to kind of do one-offs or to control your risk in the beginning. That's a very much home production setup kind of mentality, right? I would say the next step is working with a screen printing company so that now they're taking down mass orders. And then you know you're able to reasonably sell the numbers that you're using with a screen printer or embroiderer, so you can then make that product so that you don't have to then kind of press it one by one and then send it out. Now you can do mass, like let's say 100 to 300 t-shirts at a time or designs at a time that you know you can then sell through to make a profit, right? And so at some point, that next part is doing cut and sew manufacturing, right? So you're doing your first custom snapback hat, or you're gonna do your first jacket, or maybe you're trying to start with a product from the beginning that is cut and sew. So I've referenced Drawl's brand on my channel before. Big shout out to AC, doing big things with that brand, hugely successful, great case study for me for this channel. But a product like undergarments, that's not something that you can make at home. It's not common for you to find a undergarment maker in every corner of your city, like a screen printing shop that you can find that in your city. And so maybe you have a company that needs cut and sew right in the beginning. The risk is in the mass production. So basically finding a vendor. And a lot of people hit me up, and you guys think I have a crazy long list of vendors, but it's changed so much in the last several years that the list of vendors that I have might not be in business. They could have changed their name. That happens all the time in China. But yeah, the first thing, I mean, they could have completely, if it's part of a conglomerate company, it's very big for those holding companies to have many different businesses. And so they might change their model, you know, 1 month and say, oh, we don't do that category, or we don't do that type of production anymore. But for all the ones that stop, there's probably ones that start. I've mentioned this, Pakistan has been a big player in the game. Also say with the rise of this and the rise of being able to just start a profile, there's been more scamming going on too. So with this whole category, I just want to make one video about it and talk about it, but scamming is a thing, right? So when you do go to that next step, I would do Alibaba, I would do LinkedIn is a big tip that people don't think about. Here's a third one, Instagram. I've heard more and more brands have found vendors from Instagram, right? So you could do a word search, do a hashtag search as well, and find different accounts. Now, the thing that I would say from this is vet the company. So you want to, one, ask the right questions. Number two, you want to get samples. Number three, I mean, there's a lot of different things that you want to try to do to vet a company that you might do business with, because they're going to have minimums. If you're ready to go to this next step, there's going to be minimums, right? So we're talking 100 pieces. That sounds small. I mean, I've told you before that in China, they would be trying to get you to do 1,000 pieces, but you could get it down to 300. Now, a post 2020 and post some of the tension that happened with the Trump administration and tariffs with China, where there is a little bit of politics going on with making it a little bit more difficult to do business. I'm sure the minimums could get lower, and you'll probably get hit up by vendors who'll say they can do a lot less. Again, along with that, you want to vet before you send any kind of wire transfer of money, because that is where the risk is at, okay? And so I've definitely had people come to me and say they got scammed out of money. So you want to do everything you can to prevent that. But one of the reasons I brought this up is because when I was consulting with a brand that was starting brand new. They were saying, I don't understand what you mean when you say the risk, right? So risk of starting a clothing brand versus starting like a digital company or a SaaS company where everything can be in the web and be online and there is no physical product that you actually mail and send to someone. In the beginning process, someone is making and sending and mailing a bulk amount of that product to you. And so that transaction of business can be very, very overwhelming. So just wanted to bring it to you guys. That is where very specifically a lot of the risk is at, and that risk happens again and again. I have a brand that's doing very well that has told me that they get a small ulcer every single time, and the company's doing well. They're on their way to doing millions. The company's doing well, but burns have happened in that scenario for sure. And so they tell me every single time they kind of send that wire transfer, they get a small ulcer. And so we talk about things, we have talked about things that we could try to do to alleviate it, but sometimes you can be stuck in a certain situation. It all depends. But the big thing that I want to say for you or anyone that's already maybe in a vendor relationship is continuing to look for more vendors. And there's people who just specialize in production, and so you can find those people online who might have a very current playbook of people that they could reach out to and they could maybe vet. So just some ideas as you think about, or maybe you get into the idea of mass producing or creating a product for your brand. If you have any other questions, please drop it all down below, or you can hit me at this number here. It gets my iPhone every single time. If you're doing mass production for t-shirts and hats, I would have you take a look at my starting with t-shirts and hat course, or take a look at my tech packs so you could get a very exact blueprint of the design you're trying to put out. All of that available on CBA. See you guys on the next one. Bye.